Right now, Democratic battle for Texas Attorney General. State Senator Nathan Johnson and former Galveston Mayor Joe Jaworski explain their priorities and how they may challenge some of the state's high-profile new laws already passed by Republicans. One-on-one, we speak with Fort Worth Mayor Mattie Parker about a controversial data center project, the city's upcoming bond election, and property tax relief. And big decision, Dallas County GOP Chairman Allen West has resigned days before he faced a no-confidence vote from his party's executive committee. We spoke with him before he left. Good morning to you. I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas starts now. Hello and welcome to Eye on Politics. Hope your Sunday morning is off to a great start. And we're going to begin with the Democratic primary runoff for Texas Attorney General between former Galveston Mayor Joe Jaworski and State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas. The runoff is May 26. Johnson almost won the March 3rd primary outright with more than 48% of the vote. He needed 50% plus one to avoid the runoff. Jaworski edged out Dallas attorney Tony Box, who told me he is not going to endorse either candidate. He's going to remain neutral. We spoke with both candidates about their priorities and how they would challenge some state laws already passed by Republicans. We'll start with Joe Jaworski.
I'd like to see three new transformative divisions never seen before in the office of Attorney General. The first would be the division of affordability and value. Related concepts. We hear a lot about affordability because everything costs too much and no one's doing anything for the hard-working families. So imagine 100 lawyers or more working every day on every possible topic, appearing before the Public Utility Commission to keep Encore from jacking our rates up repeatedly. It never seems to go down, does it? Appearing before the Texas Department of Insurance, holding property and health insurers accountable. You know, we have lemon laws and people buy a lot of used cars in Texas. Jack, you can never get a private lawyer to help you when you're getting screwed by a used car lot. But imagine equity of scale where the Attorney General makes sure those kinds of consumer laws are enforced and respected. Here's another one, the division of elections and voter encouragement. The exact opposite of what we have now, which is voter suppression. There's actually a law in the books. It's been on the books since 1985. A Dallas legislator passed it. And it's Texas Election Code 13.046D as in David, which requires every principal in a high school to offer registration twice a year to the senior class. Well, that's public and private schools. It's just simply not done. I think anecdotally 30% of all schools actually follow through with this. The spirit of the law is that all our 18-year-olders graduate from high school ready to vote, ready to exercise the American franchise. Well, here's my promise, Jack. There's 500,000 high school students every May that graduate from all the high schools in Texas. Over a 4-year term, 2 million young Americans registered to vote. That's something we can measure. And then,
so you would enforce that state law?
Absolutely. Here's my third division, the division of ethics and integrity. Now, Jack, that's got a great acronym, DEI, but what it's going to do is hold Dan Patrick, Greg Abbott, and any other powerful politician who plays games with our ethics laws. How is it that Dan Patrick received $3 million from Tim Dunn, Ken Paxton's historically #1 donor, 6 weeks before calling the first witness at Paxton's impeachment trial? I mean, Patrick was the judge.
Would you need a new state law passed?
No, there's something called civil investigative demands. I think the voters are entitled to find out what the terms are of the $2 million forgivable loan. You know, what were the terms? And what emails might there be?
You're talking about 3 new divisions within the Attorney General's office. There are about, what, 4,000 employees. Are you talking about bulking up and adding, or are you talking about taking the 4,000 that you have and redistributing? Because if not, you're going to have to go to the legislature and ask them for more funding.
Yeah, no, this is going to be like Apollo 13. We've got what we've got. We're going to make do with the materials that are thrown on the desk. I'm not suggesting that there be a bulking, because I don't think that's where the legislature is. I think all that money that they've sucked away on their pet projects needs to go back into public education, to broach another topic.
Is that something that the Attorney General, if you're Attorney General, you would take up, or is that really left to the legislature?
Absolutely left to the legislature, but the Attorney General can get involved in litigation and certainly advocacy.
Well, what does that mean exactly?
Well, that may mean suing, depending on who's in charge of the chambers in 2027, to undo the voucher program, which I don't think is constitutional, Jack.
Okay, so just to make sure that I hear you straight, you're talking about if you're elected as Attorney General in November, you come into office in January 2027, and if there's still a Republican majority legislature, governor, lieutenant governor,
That's right.
speaker, et cetera, you're talking about potentially filing a lawsuit suing the state of Texas for passing that law. The school choice program, standing it up, et cetera.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the Texas Constitution, it's very clear that the legislature shall make suitable provision for an efficient system of free public education, and defunding public education, taking your and my tax dollars and saying you can use this in a private school, is unconstitutional.
We also spoke with Nathan Johnson about what's at the top of his agenda if he is elected.
The easiest thing to talk about is don't do what Ken Paxton has been doing, which is politicizing the office, turning it into precisely the partisan tool that the framers of the Constitution never wanted it to be. They always intended for the Attorney General's office to operate with independence and integrity. Let's return that. My top priority is to populate the Attorney General's office with really good people. 4,000 employees, 800 lawyers. The ideologues can go somewhere else. People with institutional expertise who are committed to public service, whether they're currently working in the Ken Paxton Attorney General's office or new. We are going to rebuild the culture of that office, because I think that's critically important, that we have an office that wants to serve the people of this state. As far as policy objectives or stylistically what we intend to do, I am going to protect the state from federal government overreach. My goal is not to sue the Trump administration at every chance I get, but he violates the law a lot, and when he does, I'm going to sue him. I'm going to protect people's individual rights. I'm going to protect the public schools and business operations that are dependent on dollars that have already been appropriated to the state of Texas. So a second agenda item is to make sure that the federal government does not mess up what we otherwise could do well here in Texas to protect people's individual rights. And then finally, attorneys general are supposed to be guardians of market competition. I do think over the past half century, we have allowed the commercial sector to become hyper-consolidated, we've allowed the commercial sector to co-opt and take over the political sector, to actually control the very entities that are supposed to be regulating the commercial sector. Who cares? We care because quality has gone down, prices have gone up, and consumers are being manipulated and taken advantage of in the commercial sector. Attorneys general are supposed to make sure that the competitive market is competitive. I will bring emphasis back on that element of the office. It is the natural tendency of powerful corporations to try to get more powerful. It is the duty of government to make sure that they don't control the rules of the game and are forced to compete.
I remember what Governor Abbott said when he was Attorney General. He woke up, went to work,
Yep.
He sued the Obama administration, then he went home, and that was the daily thing. You're saying that's not going to be with the Trump administration?
Well, it's cute, but it's not good policy. I probably would have already sued the Trump administration literally dozens of times. It's just because he's so prolific in violating the Constitution and the Administrative Procedures Act and state law and individual rights. It's not because I want to sue the president. But whether it's a Democratic president or a Republican president, there is a temptation, a tendency right now in the United States globally for the executive to be overly assertive. I believe in separation of powers. And my role will be to sue the federal government when powers are not properly respected.
But are you really going to file a lawsuit against a Democratic president?
Of course I would. Of course I would. I opposed the Biden administration's Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services. I actually led the Democrats in the Texas legislature in opposing what the Biden administration was doing in the Medicaid space, because I think they were violating federal law and it was harming Texas citizens and Texas healthcare systems. It's not my goal to sue a Democrat or a Republican, but I have a job to do, and I will do it no matter who's in office.
How do you, as Attorney General, if you're elected, defend a state law in court that you disagree with?
The only time I have to defend a state law is if it is challenged on grounds of legality. Either it's unconstitutional,
right,
violates federal law. If it's unconstitutional, I'm not defending it. And here's why. The Texas Constitution does not make the Attorney General the lawyer for the legislature. The Attorney General is not the lawyer for the governor. If they wanted to do that, they would have had the governor appoint the Attorney General, or they would have had the legislature nominate the Attorney General, or at least confirm the Attorney General. It doesn't. They wanted the Attorney General to be an independent force. I'm not the legislature's lawyer. I'm not Abbott's lawyer. I'm not an agency's lawyer. I represent the state in actions against an agency, in actions against a law. And if the legislature passes a law that I really hate, but it's legal, I will defend the legislature's right to pass bad laws, because I think it's important that we respect the powers of government and the way we framed things. I will not defend the legislature's passage of unconstitutional laws, laws that violate individual rights. I will not defend the legislature's passage of a requirement that schools place the 10th Commandment in classrooms, because it's unconstitutional.
So the state would basically have to go out and hire a private lawyer.
Yeah, if they want to defend unconstitutional laws, and that might be a good conversation for me to have with the legislature before they pass the next ill-advised unconstitutional law.
The Democratic runoff for Attorney General is not nearly as contentious as the primary runoff between the Republicans, State Senator Mays Middleton of Galveston and Central Texas Congressman Chip Roy, who we spoke with last week. Coming up, we sit down with Fort Worth Mayor Mattie Parker, what she says about a controversial data center project, the city's upcoming bond election, and property tax relief when Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas returns. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. Even before we get to the primary runoff in late May, voters across the state will first go to the polls for the municipal elections. Early voting starts tomorrow, Monday, April 20th, and runs through Tuesday, April 28th. Election Day is Saturday, May 2nd. And one of the various issues on the ballot is a bond election in the city of Fort Worth. The bond total is about $845 million, and there are 6 propositions, A through F. They include money for improvements to streets, parks, libraries, affordable housing, police and fire facilities, and animal care and the shelter. We went one-on-one with Mayor Mattie Parker about this and other issues in the city.
I think we've put forward a really great opportunity for voters to consider propositions that are high priority for our residents. We put, especially talk about our Transportation Public Works referendum, that first proposition, which is the bulk of the money, right at 60%, is important because we understand what high growth infrastructure needs look like in the city. But if I take a step back, the city of Fort Worth is incredibly careful with what we ask voters to consider. We're careful with our debt capacity in the way we let bonds over that 4 or 5 year period. And we will never touch your property tax rate because it's not a great way to fiscally manage a city. Importantly, as an elected official, I'm actually prohibited by state law with telling you, Jack, how you should vote in a bond election. But what I can assure you as the mayor, that our staff has done an excellent job. Our council carefully considered this over about a 1.5-year time period, making sure we felt like that our residents' concerns were voiced, and we made adjustments to that bond election propositions. At a broad level, this is about quality of life, Jack. We're one of the fastest growing large cities in the entire country. All of the great momentum the city of Fort Worth has, you have to be careful with it. You have to really consider growth. And because of that, we put forward a bond election every 4 years that we think really meets the needs of the city.
This is coming at a time where the governor and the lieutenant governor are already talking about next session additional property tax relief. But at the same time, they really want to clamp down on spending by local governments, which they say have been one of the primary drivers of property tax increases. What do you say to that? Well,
I think Texas continues to be really the fastest growing state in the country, and 80% of your individuals that are moving to Texas are moving to Texas cities. But let me take a step back to when I listen to statewide leaders and our state legislative bodies, both the Senate and the House, I fully understand as a property taxpayer why this conversation is happening. And I know that there's a lot of pressure to reduce property taxes in the state of Texas. But it does take reminding that in Texas, we're a two-legged stool. You and I have talked about this before.
Yep.
We have sales taxes, and we have no income tax, and we have property taxes. And the city of Fort Worth, on average, is about one-third of the average tax bill in the city of Fort Worth. Do we need to pay careful attention to how we're spending money? Absolutely. And be excellent fiscal stewards. For instance, that's why you have currently a hiring freeze in the city of Fort Worth. We started to look at revenues and realizing to make it through this budget year, to be really conscientious, to make sure we are in the black, never in the red, right? And we don't go into a deficit. We are incredibly responsible.
A big topic these days, which is data centers.
Right.
Fort Worth is considering this data center, I believe in the southwest part of the city by Black Mountain Energy. The Zoning Commission in Fort Worth just approved it, and Council, I think, is going to take it up in June. Where are you on this?
Well, I think maybe you might love this, deflect from your question, but it's really a statewide conversation right now. I mean, Black Mountain has their current project in Council District 8. We've also had the project most recently that pertained to Ville Ranch. Well, it wasn't a zoning case, it was maybe about tax incentives. But candidly, we think we all need the state to also step in, and you're starting to see their conversations. They just had a state affairs hearing last week that Chairman Ken King led. And I think that's healthy because this is a conversation not just for individual cities to have, but what does the future of economic development look like in the country, and how can Texas continue to be at the forefront? And we know data centers is going to be at the center of that. We understand it, but at the same time, you have to marry that with what is best for our residents. It's about environment. It's about, obviously, impact to your grid. It's water use. And then importantly, who is the end user at the end of this? The Black Mountain case is important because it has brought a lot of interest from people from all over our city. And the common word I hear, maybe people don't say it, but I feel is maybe confusion and concern and just a lack of information about what a data center is and who are the right end users that we want in Texas that have the best technology, that really are paying attention to be really good stewards. And I don't think we're there yet. So, I'm allowing that process to continue. I have not met with staff after the Zoning Commission hearing, and so I'll wait for that to happen in June.
You're keeping an open mind.
Absolutely, and you should with any potential case.
Coming up, two big resignations on Capitol Hill, including Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez and Dallas County GOP Chairman Allen West resigned amid criticism. Both stories when Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas comes right back. Dallas County Republican Party Chairman Allen West resigned last week, and the party will ultimately vote for a new chair. West stepped down more than 1 month after he ran unopposed and was reelected on March 3rd. West came under fire by some of the Dallas GOP's precinct chairs after he changed the party's contract with the Dallas County Elections Department that would allow countywide voting on May 26th, Election Day, for the primary runoff. That meant both Democrats and Republicans could cast their ballots in any vote center on that day, just like they do in early voting. Back on March 3rd, there were long lines and confusion in Dallas County after the GOP decided to hold separate primaries and require all voters to cast their ballots at their assigned precincts on March 3rd. Democrats and Republicans blame each other for the confusion. In an interview with CBS News Texas early last week, 2 days before he stepped down, West discussed his decision, the criticism, and the possibility he could step down after a party meeting scheduled for tomorrow.
I spent 22 years in the military. I had many command positions, and you're always going to have what we call the barracks lawyers, the people that are going to try to cause some disgruntlement and some issues based upon the decisions that a commander has to make. But the decision that I made, I think that it is a logical decision. It's a reasonable decision. And, there are some people that just want to have their way, and I understand that. And so at our next County Executive Committee meeting, which will be Monday, the 20th of April, a week from you and I sitting and talking right now, they get the opportunity to say, they want me to be gone, which they really can't do statutorily. But I'm a man of honor, and if this organization does not want me around, Jack, I have plenty of things going on in my life, and I'll be happy to walk away.
Tammy Brown Rodriguez, the party's vice chair, is now the acting chair. 2 members of Congress, including Tony Gonzalez of San Antonio, stepped down last week, avoiding looming votes to expel them. Sarah Jenkins has the brief.
Texas Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez and California Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell both submitted resignation letters on Tuesday to the House. Gonzalez previously admitted to an affair with a subordinate who later died by suicide. He had said he would not seek re-election, but chose to resign amid renewed attention on misconduct in Congress. His resignation took effect just before midnight on Tuesday. Swalwell has faced recent allegations of sexual assault, which also led him to end his campaign for California governor. He announced his resignation would take effect Tuesday afternoon. Despite the departures, Republicans will maintain their slim majority in the House. In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott has flexibility on when to call a special election, with the option to wait until November or act sooner. For The Brief, I'm Sarah Jenkins.
Thank you, Sarah. And remember, you can watch all the full interviews from today's show on our CBS Texas YouTube page. And when you're there, look for the Eye on Politics playlist. And of course, also hit the subscribe button. And that's all for Eye on Politics today. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening to you at CBS News Texas. Thank you for watching, and from all of us here, have a great weekend.